Okay, welcome back everyone. Hopefully you took a little bit of a break. It's been pretty heavy going. Not only for you, for me as well, recording all of this. I love it. You can probably tell by my enthusiasm. I love it. You can imagine how lonely it gets looking at data in the correct way on my own without being able to shout about it. And not only that, help other people, have other people look at it in this way. Love it. Really motivates me to and be able to help people. So yeah, really enjoying it so far. Hopefully you're also enjoying it, but obviously important to take some breaks. So took a little bit of a break, had some lunch, and I'm back for retail sales basically. So we can see here, we've done the obviously these four. We've also done the year on year, which is fantastic. You could put in year on year in there, but it doesn't matter. We already know we've got that. Retail sales is the next one. Very important piece of data. Again, don't worry if you don't know that much about retail sales. I'm going to have a discussion with you about retail sales. But think about it. When we come to talk about inflation, if we already have the data in front of us, it's going to be much easier for me to have a conversation with you and say, hey, you know, this is how I look at inflation and so on and so forth. When it's actually in front of me and the data's here, I can use it as a base. We're going to have a much more productive conversation about inflation if I have this in front of me compared to if I don't, right? So it's the same with retail sales. Let's together just get the data in front of us and we can have a chat about retail sales afterwards. You can see, we've already done it for CPI, inflation, and we will be going into the website, Census Bureau. We can have a look at it. You know, we'll be doing all that stuff together. We can check out and just mess about with it, kind of have a look at what retail sales is. But for now, let's get it up here. So this is kind of how I look at it. You can see here the core and the headline put together. So that's what we kind of what we want to end up with. Very, very similar to the CPI, which is split out into a headline and a core number. Okay, so don't worry too much about the differences, because again, we will talk about the differences, right? So you can see here, retail sales excludes autos, and that's because automobile sales can be very seasonal, right? It can be very volatile, and you know, when agencies, including the Federal Reserve, but also governments and traders are trying to figure out what is going on, typically they like to exclude volatile components. And you can see here, automobile sales account for about 20% of retail sales, but they tend to be very volatile and distort the underlying trend. Okay, the core data is therefore thought to be a better gauge of spending trends. Okay, so but we look at both. I like to look at headline and the core, same way as inflation. You can see we like to look at both. Year on year is better, isn't it? The kind of headline, obviously here you can see it's higher recently for me at this period of time. Obviously when you come to do this it may be different, but you can see it does tend to exaggerate sometimes the inflation picture, or both ways. So that's why the core is often the preferred measure for a lot of these data points. So let's have a look anyway. Let's crack on. Let's use the CPI. You can either start with a blank page, as I said, like that. You've got a blank page. Start from scratch if you want to do it, you know. But if you don't worry about it, okay? It's not going to make you a better trader at all. It's just kind of a nice exercise to do to get yourself familiar with how to build tables on Excel. If in the future you want to obviously do this for data that I'm not doing it for, you may decide that there is data there I haven't done, and then, you know, obviously if you've done it a few times, it's going to be easy for you to replicate. But you know, this is pretty much what I've looked at for years, so don't worry about it. I don't think there is anything I'm missing. Personally, I think I've covered everything. So did you see what I did there? I clicked on that, I hit the control button, and then I dragged it across, and it just created the identical tab, CPI month on month, CPI month on month. But I'm going to use this for retail sales now. I'm going to use this template. Saves me having to build it from scratch. I can use the same template I had for CPI month on month for the retail sales. So first thing we're going to do is let's change this to retail sales. Okay. Now those of you that are eagle-eyed would have noticed this is also month on month, but because of the manner of retail sales, it's okay to look at retail sales month on month. You won't really hear about year on year changes in retail sales. The inflation picture is obviously different because the Federal Reserve have certain targets. Like I said, in terms of GDP growth, they want to keep it in line in terms of the 2%. So it's in line with capacity, reasonable rate, kind of aligned with, what they think is a reasonable percentage, where they want kind of the GDP or economic picture to end up at the end of the year, and a 2% inflation rate is aligned with that. Okay, that's probably the best way I can describe it. Obviously, it is quite a complicated thing, but traders like to keep things simple, and when you've got lots of things moving around, you want to be kind of basic. As an institutional trader, you've got enough things to worry about without questioning why the Fed is doing something or why it's 2%. It is 2% per year. In terms of retail sales, there isn't really a kind of number that is widely targeted year on year. So month on month is fine. It gives us a good picture. Is the consumer spending from the last month? It's a different type of data piece. Inflation is more about prices. So obviously we want to kind of look at the general price picture over a year. Retail sales is slightly different. It's to do with consumer spending. And if you think about it, and I'm sorry to kind of get sidetracked, but it is important. GDP is reported quarterly, right? So GDP quarterly. Okay, and remember what the components are. We talked about it, C plus I plus G plus net exports. Consumer spending is a big chunk of that, around 70%, right? And a big part of that, of consumer spending, is, retail sales, spending by consumers at retailers. Obviously, there'll be lots of different types of spending, and we'll talk about that when we get to GDP. But retail sales is quite, and you can see it here, retail sales. We're going to change that from CPI to retail sales, and all of this data will change. But essentially, retail sales is a heavy component of consumer spending. We're reporting on GDP quarterly, so we want to see every single month over that 3 month, 3 months go into a quarter. We want to see kind of month on month. We do want to see it month on month, retail sales. It's slightly different to the inflation data, okay? It's actual output, it's actual spending, and we do kind of want to see it month on month. So I don't really look at retail sales year on year. I just mentioned this because some of you might have noticed that and thought, hey, Envy, this is month on month data. So I'm perfectly happy with it. Bit of a long-winded way of me telling you that, but obviously I'm sure you'd rather have more information than not enough. So let's crack on. So anyway, so you've got the retail sales data. Let's get it into our graph. So to do that, let's change some of this around. So we've got here retail sales. Let's change this. Retail sales month on month. Let me just make sure I did it for the year on year here. I remember core. Yes, I did. Yes, we've done that. Just want to make sure I've done that there. Retail sales month on month. We got to rip out all of this data basically. So what we do, find your last retail sales release, as we've been doing for everything else. Now for me, as many of you have probably guessed, I'm doing this in January 2022. Do you remember retail sales is not until week 3 typically, and we know that because we've built it in here. Retail sales week 3. So what I'm going to do, you see here retail sales at the bottom, I've got week 2. I'm going to change that. So that is week 3 basically, because I want everything to be in order, nicely organized as my month goes along. Can you see I'm making my life easier? I can just jump as the month carries on from tab to tab. Got my retail sales month on month heading. Next thing is I need to find when the next retail sales data is. So if I go to week 3, sorry, let's go here. it's one slightly early. As we said, they're expecting to release it slightly early in the month because of the way the first falls here. But there's no data. That's my point. There's no data yet because I haven't got to that date yet. So I'm going to go back to December basically. So let's go to December and find it. Should be there. Week 3. There it is. Okay. So as expected, week 3, 1, 2, third week. Basically after the inflation data, right? So the inflation data, just come out of that. There you go. You got the CPI data. You see, we're expecting CPI first and then retail sales. So as expected, you've got your CPI first and then your retail sales comes along. In that third week, it was 0.3. So I'm going to copy this. This is my latest data. Copy that into here. Okay, paste. Don't want to keep the source formatting, match destination formatting. Okay, you see that updated automatically. It was under forecast, the last one, 0.3 versus 0.9. And what I'm also going to do is put the date in. So it's December the 15th. Okay, so remember this is the CPI dates because I'm using the template. I need to update this. So 15th of December 21. Obviously, if you've got your own date system, then use that. Is that for November? Yes, it is. Okay, it's released in December for November. We've discussed this many times now. So don't forget, don't put the core in here. It's the headline number, right? That includes everything. Okay, includes auto sales. It includes everything. Next, we want to get the history. Okay, so we're going to just copy a whole bunch of it. Okay, going back, we only want to go back a couple years, but obviously, whatever. We can delete what we don't need. Remember not to put it in that top line because we've already updated the latest data. It's the month going back from that. So paste, match destination formatting. Yeah, you can see the graph starting to take some shape. Delete this. Okay, delete that. And then just got to change all these dates. You'll only ever need to do this once. Once you've done it once, that's it. You'll come in here and update this only one time. A month will take you 10 seconds, but for this one time you've just got to go through a little bit of it's a bit annoying, but you've got to do it just one time. Like I said, Excel thinks this is text, so it won't tell you. So don't forget, just type it in manually. So it's 16th of November 21. There you go. You see, it's converted it into a date format so it can put it in as a day. I like to know the day. I mentioned this to you. I can see it's on a Tuesday straight away. 15th October 21. Now I'm not going to do all of them. I'm going to pause the video. I'll do them. You don't need to watch me do them, and then I'll see you in a sec once I've converted all of them. Okay, so I've converted all of them. Fairly straightforward. I've now got my retail sales data here, which is wonderful. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove this second one so we can go and check on the data. But for now, let me just remove it. So select data. Let's remove this core CPI one. Remove, okay. So I've just got my headline retail sales here. Okay, and the reason I'm doing this, I just want to make sure I've got the right data. Remember, we want to double check. So we open up the graph. My last release was in December 2019. Yours is going to be different. So just go back, drag this to the last release. December 2019. Does it look like we've got the right data? Remember, this is just a double check. So let's have a look. Let me just get my pen out. It looks pretty spot on to me. Okay, goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down, shoots up, and then comes back down, then goes above and below around here, above and below around here. Couple of peaks there. It's exactly the same, right? Can you see that? It's perfect. And there's slight kind of trend above zero recently, the latest quarter, Q4 that I'm looking at. Obviously, again, sorry to repeat the point, but it's true. Yours may be different because you may be looking at this at a different point in time to me. Let's just clean this up a little bit. We know this is not CPI, it's retail sales. So just type in retail sales there. Okay, so that's the headline number. Okay, and that includes everything. Very straightforward. Let's do the same for core, and we won't even need to put the dates in because we've already got the dates. So what we're going to do is just move across. Okay, we've got the core CPI already, the table. We can replace that with core retail sales, and it is a percentage, month on month percent. So yeah, just making sure I put that as a percent. Retail sales, let's make that percent. Okay. When you come to do this, because I'm doing it close to when you know, the COVID situation was, I have these big spikes, so you may not have such wide ranges like this, but we can discuss that anyway. But for now, let's just get the data in. So core retail sales, obviously open it up. What was the latest data? 0.3, 0.9, 1.8. So to remind you, this excludes autos. Okay. Go in there, the top, December 15th, put it in here. Match destination formatting, there you go, I've got it in there, okay. For some reason, I've got that negative as green. I may have, okay, so what you need to do, let's expand this, copy this, as in select it, format painter, and then put it there. Do you see? So what I did is, do you remember for some items I have this green? It might be because of the inflation data, and in fact let's go and change it here, month on month. Yeah, okay, so what I've done is I've actually got higher inflation as being good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this negative. So if you remember, not to confuse you, when we did the payrolls, do you remember I flipped these over, the conditional formatting, and I said, you know, if you have a low unemployment rate, that's a good thing. Whereas with everything else, if you have a low number, it's a bad thing. So I flipped those over, and because we used the same formats, it kept that. But what I want to do is I'm going to actually revert back to, let's have for inflation, if it's too high, it's a negative thing. Let's have it that way. So I'm going to copy this from unemployment, format painter, go to the CPI, I'm going to copy it there. Okay, can you see that? So now if CPI comes in too high, which it has there, month on month, there, it's a negative thing. I'm going to highlight that, format painter, and I think this one's already done. There you go, so that's right. So if inflation is too high, it's a negative thing, as in red. Okay, now what we want to do is for retail sales, we want to reverse that. If you want to be 100% accurate, you can even change these ones, which we hadn't done. So if you go to CPI, sorry, I know there's a lot going on here, but just basically copy what I'm doing. And slow it down if you want, but it will make sense. We're going to flip those. You see those, so those become red. So if inflation is too high, then it's red. Here we're going to, that's fine. That's already done. Okay. And what I'm also going to do is, if you don't mind, I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. So here, hadn't realized we've got two groupings there. Select everything. Data ungroup, okay, and let's make it so it's lined up with this. So I'm going to close all of this stuff and group that group. Okay, there you go. Okay, can you see they're both now nicely, neatly lined up? If I want to open everything out, I just press 2. If I want to close everything, I just press 1. Okay, keep everything closed. That's what we want to do. Keep it all closed, so we get the correct graph. Now let's move on to retail sales. Okay. So here we just want to make sure the coloring is right. Okay, so the forecast was 0.9, the actual was 0.3, and that is correct. We've now changed it, so it is red is negative. You know, we're under forecast. Okay, whereas with inflation it's the other way around. We had it same with the core, 0.6 under forecast. Okay, so let's go back now to our exercise of putting the core in. Sorry, I had a bit of a sidestep there. Let's put all this data in. Okay, so we've already put in 0.3, 0.9 and 1.8 for the core retail sales, right? You can see it there, 0.3, 0.9, and 1.8. Let's now copy all this data, maybe a little bit more. All the core data. Okay, copy. And then don't forget we've already put that data in, so we don't want to put it there, we want to put it one row down. So paste, match destination formatting. Let's get rid of everything, okay, that we don't need. And that's all our data. We don't need to do these dates again because the core and the headline get released at the exact same time, and we've already got the headline dates over here. So you can literally just copy all these dates. Copy even the 15th of December. I know we typed it in, but it doesn't matter. Don't know why I've got the 10th there, but anyway, it's the 15th. So there we can come in here, paste. There you go, we've got the correct dates now. Right, you can see that 15th, November the 16th, 15th of October, 15th of October, September 16th. You see I've got all the right dates. I'm gonna save that, don't forget, always save it periodically. I keep forgetting to say that. Released monthly about 16 days after the month end, so we've already got that written in there, monthly after the month ends. Now all we need to do, okay, so we've got all our information here. Let's expand this now. Okay, we now need to put core on here, okay, and they should be roughly the same because all we're doing is we're excluding autos, so hopefully it will be the same, and it's a good check to make sure we've got the right data. Add, okay, series name, core retail sales, okay, values, we want these values, okay, same values as these, right, otherwise the graph will be all over the place. We want to make sure it's aligned. Okay, can you see? Really nice, coming together, beautiful, exactly what we expected. We know it's probably the right data because it's so closely aligned. It's the same number, it just excludes auto, so we know that it's only going to be slightly different. Click OK. If you want to be highly 100% accurate, you can edit this and put in the same months. Click OK, hit OK, okay. And the reason you might want to put those in is just so that if you ever hover your mouse over there, it will say May, otherwise it will say 1, 2, 3, it will say the number, and then here again it will say May, okay. You can double check if you want, but we've already done the check, so we know that we've got the right data because, so what I mean by double check is you can go into here and check the graph, and for me the latest data was December 19, obviously for you it's going to be different. Okay, so we've got December 19, so you can see again, this is the core data. We're pretty much spot on, aren't we? You've got around zero, you've got the dip down, the dip down, the dip up, and then a couple of peaks there and a trough there, a couple of peaks there and a trough, and then kind of sideways and sideways. Okay, so that, ladies and gentlemen, is your retail sales data. I'm very happy with that. That is pretty much it. Don't worry, we're going to talk about this separately when we actually come to discuss retail sales, but you've got their perfect core and headline retail sales. You can see the slight variances there. And one final thing, so typically, can you see retail sales, it normally comes in around about 10%. Well, it doesn't actually. To be honest, we've had this COVID situation, right? And that's why the numbers are completely off the charts, right? Plus and minus. But in my recent time, when I'm looking at this, I'm kind of thinking, you know, I want to be able to see these incremental changes, and what normally happens in a more normal period, especially now things are starting to calm down a little bit. That kind of seems to me, this area, to kind of be what I want to zoom into, okay? I don't necessarily want to look at, you know, minus 15% in a month retail sales. It's just not normal, okay? It just doesn't happen. You know, we're talking a once in a lifetime event. So I really don't want that on my chart. I know it's there. Even if I cut it off, I know it's there, okay? I don't need it there all the time. It's not going to help me. Would you agree? To look at that right now, at this point in time, you know, 2022, 23, 24, it's not going to help me to look at that data point. So I'm just gonna, as we did with the payrolls, do you remember? So much more useful that we've cut that period out in payrolls. Just happens to be, look at that, exactly the same. Unbelievable, isn't it? But yeah, you can see I cut the noise out. So it's up to you, you don't have to do it. And you know, when you come to do this, if you're doing this in a year time for when I've built this course, you may not even see this data, okay? It may be out the picture and you'll just have this and then you'll be fine. It may automatically adjust it for you. You don't have to take, you know, what Excel gives you. If you double click there, right, you can see what it's given you. So axis options, do you see it's got 0. It's kind of decided for you what it thinks is the best fit. You don't have to use that. So for me, here, I'm going to kind of use 10%. Okay, I don't want this volatility. It just makes no sense. I don't need to see it. So I'm going to make the maximum 0.1, which is 10%. Okay, so you see I'm removing some of that volatility. And I'm going to make it minus 10%. Minimum minus 10%. So minimum minus 0.1. Hit enter. Okay, there you go. You can play around with it. You can even do, you know, you don't have to agree with me. Okay, I'm not, you know, some sort of dictionary or what do I say, a definition of what is correct. It's just there is some discretion and it's good to use your own discretion. You can use 5%. Look at that, nothing wrong with that. That's very, very sensible as well. I'm just going to use that. That's what I've decided. And then if you want, you can reset it. Hit reset and it will tell you what it thinks you should use. Obviously, Excel is not a trader. So we're going to use what we want to use. So I've got that. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You've got perfect. You can see what I've been using up until now. Okay, so you've got the same. Exact same as me. Built from scratch. So really exciting. We've now covered retail sales, CPI, payrolls, services, manufacturing. Let's do the FOMC or the GDP. I haven't decided. We're going to do one of the two next. And then we're done with that part of the business plan and we can quickly put these ones in afterwards. We don't need to put them in as a matter of urgency. These ones were much more urgent. We've got all of them. I'm very, very happy that they all look okay. If I spot a little mistake, obviously I will let you know, but I think everything looks pretty much bang on. I'll see you on the other side.